Yep, they're going to start funneling in here in a minute. Um, Zach, a lot of people also catch the replay on the 2% Monday Mastermind series. I'm pretty excited today. Yep, it looks like we're live inside of Top Agent Experts. What's going on in the world today, guys? What's up, Zach? Welcome.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, like I was saying a minute ago, I'm pretty excited today. Obviously, the conversion piece is one of the most exciting pieces to me. Obviously, starting out as ISA 13 years ago, to be able to build up over those 13 years into a few dynasties, if you will. And nothing happens if you're not selling houses, if you're not moving units. And over the course of my career, I've been able to generate a lot of business, not just for myself, but for other people, obviously running traditional teams, modern teams, and things like that. And what's your role? Like, who are you, Zach? Tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into this. But you are like a ISA, like master, even though you're young in your career, but you're definitely ahead of most people. What's up with Zach? Like, what market you with? Who you partnered with? Tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into the conversion piece of this.
Yeah, man. Quick backstory. I'm born and raised Orange County, and I'm still over there right now. I'm in Dana Point, and my whole background, pretty much every job I have has been sales in some sort of way. Once I found that I could control what my paycheck was, instead of going and working at like Rubio's or Carl's Jr. or something like that,
Right.
I instantly got me excited. So I got into phone sales. I did floor sales. I bounced around and found where I wanted to be. And then I actually ended up at a lead company, and that's where I found Frances, my current business partner. I followed up with her for about 5 months. She ended up offering me a job instead of buying the product. It was a 50-50 offer. I ended up quitting my job same day, giving her a call and saying, hey, I'm coming to work for you. And that kind of just took off from there. I had no plan of moving into the real estate industry or being involved in the way I am. But what we really found is it all comes down to conversations. So it's pretty easy. When me and her partnered, we just boosted conversations. We shot those through the roof. And then we just really started to dial in our sales, how we're talking to people, getting in the doors, speeding up conversion. We never want a buyer that's in our database for 3 years, just looking at property alerts. So that's where my specialty really comes in. I'm good at shaking the tree. Right. Give me an area, give me a zip code. You want something there. I don't need some long strategic plan. Like, throw me in there, I'll shake the tree. We need to have conversations with homeowners, and we find someone who wants to do something. So I like to keep things keep them simple, stupid, overcomplicating and tons of steps.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I love that too, guys. So if you guys are looking for ISAs, inside sales agents, virtual prospectors, OSAs, like whatever you're coining the phrase, but somebody that's you're definitely managing your database and is the point person and responsible for the conversion piece and the quality to be able to get in front of more qualified sellers and buyers. And so I love the fact that Frances, for the people that you guys don't know, she is a team owner out of, she's in the same area as you, right? And
yes, we cover, she's down in San Diego, so it works pretty good because now we cover San Diego, Orange County. Yeah,
her and Brett are fabulous people. And I was introduced to them through Mr. Gerbic, and you tie back through that partnership with him. And I just love those two, because I got to know them over the last year or whatever, and really got to meet them in person, have dinner, spend time with them when we were in Cabo and all that stuff. And then getting back home, and that's what's great about our mastermind. It created a spark between us to have much more of just an open dialogue. And then they introduced me to you, and I know that due to my schedule or Brett's schedule or whoever, it was tough for you and I to make a connection, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like damn near impossible. It was like our fourth time, and then we got a server where I'm attempting to create a prospecting like group, and not just like on a set time, but throughout the day you could go into different rooms and people be in there prospecting. And I had to do that server recently, showed you around, and I'm in there hanging out, and it's like we had some discussions over the weekend, and then obviously I was working on the Monday mastermind call, and I was going to go with the ISA piece. And I don't know, you and I probably spent a couple hours talking just over the weekend, and I invited you on here. And so that's how organically things can really unfold, even in terms of how you and Francis got into business with each other. You prospected her to sell her a different product outside of real estate, right? Let's get clear on that. So if you guys are looking for an inside sales agent, that's a great way to flip people. I always let a telemarketer or however you want to coin the phrase, for the people that are pitching you on the phone, I always let them pitch me. And then I start asking them questions. Where are you from?
All the time.
Hey, that was really good. Or that was horrible.
Yeah.
You know, like, where are you at? How long you been doing this? Because you never know, you could pull talent. Francis listened to you. She didn't hang up on you. And just out of curiosity, while we moved through this, what were you selling?
So I was selling real estate leads. So I was on the
Leads.
I was on the other side of the business.
Oh God, you're that guy.
Yeah, I was that guy. And, that I quickly got out of that. That did well there. It was great. Leads. Every agent needs leads. So that one wasn't the hardest, but switching over to this side made way more sense. And a lot of people don't connect ISA and culture together. I feel like a lot of ISAs are just off on the side, doing their own thing. A lot of sales reps in general. And I know one of the big differences when I, started working with Francis and Brett is that was one of the big differences I've never experienced, is being a sales rep in a actual like great culture, a growing culture where she's helping me grow, not just business wise, but personal wise. That was a big game changer for me, because it's pretty rare in the sales side of the industry for a sales rep to get that kind of culture and that support. All my other jobs are like, you pay for your seat. Like, you're down 1 month, you're out.
Yeah, that's for sure. I will tell you, just in life in general, man. How old are you again?
26.
26. So you still got a lot of living to do. In general, it's just hard to find good quality human beings. And that's just what her and Brett are. This is bigger than real estate to them. They're just like good spirited people. And so that's the type of people that I'm trying to be in business with. And then obviously they saw something in you. And so I'm glad that you said that piece of it, because Bill that was on a couple of weeks ago, everybody talks about they're crushing real estate, and we have a lot of people winning and growing, but for me, I've been doing this a long time. I'm just crushing life. I'm just attempting to just wake up and be the best husband, be the best father, be the best real estate agent, be the best whatever at his other business entities, right? And so I look at Francis and Brett the same way. Like, when I met them, I'm just like, are these guys for real?
Yeah.
Is this for real? Like, they're just awesome people. So that's cool. So you were trying to sell her lead. She was listening to you pitch and all that stuff. And then eventually she saw something that she liked in you, and she made you an offer, or did she ask to meet you, or what?
It was one of those 50-50 offers. You and me have probably given them on the phone. Hey man, call me if you ever need a job. It wasn't like a quit your job, come here. And it just felt right. So I just shot on a dime. And I remember when I called her and told her, hey, it's Zach, I quit my job. She went, oh, she's like, okay, we got to figure this out now. We got to get it going. But yeah, and I tell people all the time, I can't even try to explain Francis to you. You just have to meet her. I tell it to homeowners too. They're like, how is she? And I'm like, I'm not even trying to explain it. Like, you just have to meet her. Like, you can't really explain.
Yeah, when I got back from Cabo, or I think I was talking with Brett and you the first time when I was dealing with my golf cart or whatever. I think I just dropped that off, and I had Brett gave me the wrong. He was off a digit, and I kept calling some lady that was And then I was telling my girlfriend about Francis and Brett, and I was trying to explain it, and it was like you hit the nail on the head. It was hard to explain them when I'd only really met them that week in Cabo. I talked to him on the phone a handful of times, but You're absolutely right. So you make the transition, you're the right person, you're with the right tribe, you found your family. So how long have you been doing this? And then you said what, 69 appointments? I know you posted that in our Discord account, but where did the 69 appointments come from? What time span? A week, a month? Like what?
Yeah. So when I partnered with her, I was like sole ISA. So my first year with her, I think I did like 120,000 calls or something like that. We were doing like 15,000 texts a month. We really boosted the outbound. And that's when we started getting the traction with this. So we of course put more and more time into it. So as you go on, I've simplified it. It's been about 3 years now that I've been working with her, working in Chime, really building out our outbound prospecting, because I love inbound calls. I love them. They're amazing. They make my life easy, but I don't like waiting around for them. So we were like, how do we essentially just times this by 20, times it by 100, and just keep on going? So right now, majority of our seller appointments, which is where most of our outbound prospecting goes, is done via text message. So they're getting the initial text. All I'm looking for is a hand raise. I'm not like qualify someone over text and set a listing appointment. And I think people are thinking too far ahead when they're doing this initial outreach, because I'm just trying to reach out and even see what's going on, see if they have any interest whatsoever. And even if they don't have interest, I still want them in my database on the side. But so I'm just looking for the hand raises, and that's essentially my warm list. So if I send 10,000 texts and 200 people say, maybe, possibly, give me $1 million, whatever, something that's other than no, not interested, stop, those get moved to the side. I now have 250 sellers there that I can call that raise their hand.
Yeah.
Just cold calling a bunch of geodata or something like that.
So 69 appointments that you posted in whatever, because we have a results tab or whatever where you can post your results for the ISAs or whatever in the group. And it's the 69 appointments come from 1 week or 1 month, just to tell the group.
So that's 1 month. And I have another ISA with me now, virtual ISA. I'm actually onboarding 2 more after this meeting. So her majority were buyers. So she took a bulk of buyer leads in there, and then I fell in with the sellers.
Yeah.
So 1 month of buyers and sellers together with the 2 of us.
Okay. I like it. So you are, just to break down the structure, this is what I liked when I was working over the weekend with you. It's, you guys got a very good foundation, and you guys got, a lot of people try to outsource the conversion piece to this without some core leadership every single day on the data management piece, involved in the scrubbing or the actual closing part of it. And that's what I like is you have a couple of VAs and you guys are running all the texting through them, whether it's the automation piece that you were talking about. But I like what I saw with you. It was like when they respond, the VA quits communicating with them. And it's basically getting the cream to rise to the top. And once they get a response, they move into, what did you call that bucket?
We have a bucket that's called engaged. So
engaged.
Get a seller engaged in conversation. And I've just seen so few positive text conversations. If I get the initial response, anything you say back, they're essentially going to say, how much, who are you? They're going to start qualifying you instead of you qualifying them. It turns tables.
And you hit the nail on that. You hit the nail on the head, which it ends up summing it up in a dead end, right? Or your conversion number drops. So I like that you have it dialed in with the mass, with the VAs behind the scenes. And then no matter what, they don't respond. Once you get a response, they go into the engage bucket and they dump them in there. And then who calls them? Who follows up with them?
Right now we got me. So one of the things I like to point out, I think a lot of people are confused on what an ISA actually is. An ISA is not a closer. An ISA is they have one purpose. All my ISAs, they'll have one task and that's all they do. And they're amazing at that one task. So I have one ISA that all she does is send text messages. She does not get on the phone because that's not her specialty. She's not the best at being on the phone, but she's great at data management. She's great at keeping track of hundreds of conversations. So that's where she needs to be. My other ISA is great on the phone. So all he does all day is get in conversations on the phone. But I think it's important to keep them on their task. They're not some agent sales rep in your office. They're really good at being specific. So I just make sure to give them one task, get them really good at it, and then keep them there. I think a lot of people try to get them to close their appointments or schedule the in-house. There's not many good cold calls that lead to an in-house appointment that's super qualified, in my opinion. I like to get on the phone with them and have a deeper conversation and talk with them a little bit more.
Yeah. The inside sales agent department is what we'll call it, has evolved over, I'll say, the last 3 to 5 years. And as the lead generation companies want you to, for example, OpCity, My Agent Finder, you name it, they want you to manage the lead inside of their portal for the algorithm purposes and the accountability piece to that. It's the segmenting of the department. So you almost are running your inside sales team like a team. And if you run a traditional team, the way that, Gerbic and I ran it, and a lot of you guys are running it, it's assembly line real estate, right? You focus on your specialty, your one thing. And you're absolutely right. As this department, or we'll just call it a role, has evolved and developed over the years, you almost need to break out the inside sales position into, we'll just say, a lead coordination role. That's different than ISA, right? A virtual assistant essentially is really different than a core ISA in terms of, we'll just say, a Zach, right? Or what I was talking about with you with replacing yourself with a few things and how to put a few pieces for scale, like what you guys are doing are working, but you're looking to scale, and it's okay, there's going to be some constraints here. And then you're like, oh, I already see that. And so that duplication piece with the leadership piece with the data management piece is huge, because the data management piece is huge, where you don't want them making judgment calls with the database or profiles or whatever. You want them to just pick up the phone and get a response with texting, and then move them on to the next bucket. And you or whoever is in that role could call them, or you just want XYZ person to focus on their one calls that they're good at, right? And so essentially you are starting to compartmentalize the actual role and the responsibility and build an ISA team, right? Not just one ISA does all and handles all this data and just everything falls under one umbrella, because as this has widened and gotten deeper, it has gotten a little more complex too with, we'll just say, expireds. I think the person calling expireds and FSBOs, you don't want that same person necessarily calling your long-term nurture with your internet leads, right? I think two different profile types, and then how you're managing we'll just call it the lead calendar, if you will, how you're cycling your data in and out in rotation of shifts and calling it and making sure you're not beating it up or calling it the same way at the same time every single week.
Yeah.
And we dug into all that stuff. And so you are setting up a lot of seller leads as these people are getting a response. And then it's what I tell people with online chat. And this is what I like about what I heard you say. It's people overcomplicate the chat, or the chat just evolves and keeps going on, and it's just a dead end, or the prospect just starts to qualify you and then they quit responding, or they just go flatline on you. And you say, no matter what, whether they ask a question or if it's just a simple kind of text response could have handled it, they still go into the engage bucket, and no matter what, they're getting a call. So it's like that jab punch, right?
Yeah.
And so you are the punch coming in, and you're taking that basically, we'll just say online, whether it's live chat or through text, and you're taking it offline with actual live offline call, right, to them. And do you have any people that couldn't you just text that, or I was texting you or whatever? Do you get pushback on that's the way they were communicating, and then all of a sudden they're getting a text from you, and or the delayed space between? Because I even said, what if it's like a quick answer that they could give them or whatever, and you're like, nope, it's we just follow this one rule. So do you get any blowback from that or question on any of that, or it doesn't matter because your overall conversion number with your valid conversation to appointment ratio is sticking?
Yeah. And that's so I'm going to get roasted for this, but it's like I put the sellers in the engaged group. I don't touch them for 2 to 3 days because you just caught that homeowner completely out of the blue. It's not like I was texting a list of expireds or something. We're talking geographical data, like just a zip code. They weren't just waking up today thinking about having this conversation. So they raised their hand. I used to just call them right away. I was like, oh, speed delete. Great. I'm gonna call them. And I was getting they started qualifying me right off the bat and they're being super defensive. And where did you get my number? We were just in every objection in the book. So I ended up leaving town for a few days and I came back and called through the list and got a way better response. And it's because they were just, oh yeah, you were that guy who texted us the other day. And it was just a way smoother conversation. They send out the text messages. We get the hand raised. They go in.
It's
cold data. I obviously still like expireds and FSBOs and all that, but where my bread and butter has really been is just the cold data, because that's where a lot of other agents aren't willing to go.
because right now, like you said it best, I've been saying that market was going to come back huge because I thought this spring and summer was going to be a little bit different with the listings. Like I predicted this whole last year, everything went the way I thought. However, going into spring and damn, we're in the middle of summer and it still feels fall a little bit. Like we're still like in winter a little bit. And it seemed like the sellers locked up and didn't really move the way that I thought they were going to move. And so you were saying we are going, and if you guys have ever seen my chart where you take data, which you could get for 0 cents, and then turn it all the way into a qualified appointment, you know, what's that word to you, right? And so you're essentially taking data that not a lot of people are calling, or they're not willing to mine it, right? Or invest in it. And then you're turning it into a hand raiser and then so on and so forth. So essentially you guys are creating your own leads. You're investing in and creating your leads. You're investing in the conversion piece of that. And so you went and created a little bit of a blue ocean where you're not competing with other people.
Let's say Chime, you can 30,000 texts for like $30 a month or something like that. Your ROI on free data with a $30 a month text package. And I'll just give a perfect example. Same text package, same free data. Within 7 days, someone got a blast and turned into a signed $4.25 million listing. It's like they're there. And what's happening right now, or at least what I am noticing in this market, is a lot of agents did start to pull back a little bit because they were just getting a little cruising over here. They're going to lazy, they're expecting it to be hard. And I was like, a lot of the agents I see crushing it, all they're doing is just taking that extra one little step. So one of the agents in her neighborhood, literally front door to front door, is a major player in the Orange County market. Major player. And he was watching her move boxes for weeks. And I didn't even offer to come look at the house. I just said, hey, can we come help you move boxes? Because that's what her problem was. That's where we could provide value in that moment. It was helping her move the boxes, not telling her how to sell her house. And then you sign a listing. You're there, you're providing value. So what I've noticed with the texting and getting on the call, they're willing to break down what's really going on. So when I called her and said, hey, Diana, you answered the text message, give me a little bit of a breakdown. Oh my God, I'm clearing out the house and it's 6,000 square feet and I have my friend helping me, but we're both on. That was her current problem. So it's easy. All these homeowners have something there that you can provide value with. Now all we're doing is, like you said, worry-free listing. There's so many options there that you can step in and provide them.
Yeah. And I looked over some of your guys' marketing stuff and I love it. You guys are running our playbook for sure. And aesthetically, everybody puts their own, spin on it and how they own it and how it looks. So I love it. Obviously, you can pivot it and sell the unique value proposition or the appointment at that time, but that also probably falls in alignment with culturally Francis and Brett's core values, right? It's this person's, moving boxes or they're frustrated about it. And so it's, who do you send over there? Who did you send Francis over there to move boxes?
I just went over day one. I was like, hey, I'm moving boxes for you. I was like, oh my God, dude, this house is 6,000 square feet. There's so much stuff everywhere. So I called in Brett. I called him the heavy hitter. He showed up with 5 people in a 35-foot moving truck, and we just cleared it out.
Look at Brett. He shows up 5 men in a crew. Like
if you're
trucks and a
calling the
guy.
cavalry, you call Brett. Yeah.
I love it. And then that immediately is a huge deposit of value before trying to make a withdrawal out of that relationship. And it really goes in alignment with the law of how, like, I've operated with building my businesses, is the law of reciprocity, and really doing major things like that, not expecting anything in return. Most people aren't going to do any of that stuff until they at least have an appointment or met you, or even a signed listing. Just like to show up like that, that's next level, guys. And if Brett, he was probably had a smile on his face and happy the whole time.
He was having a blast.
That's the law of reciprocity, and turned into a $4 whatever million listing and stuff like that. So I love it. Now let's get into some of the tactical stuff with this. It's the simplification of, we'll just say, cold data. What is, I don't know if you need to screen share and maybe show us a text or two, but what is a text that you're sending to cold data? If I'm a new agent, or I'm an agent listening to the 2% Monday Mastermind series, like, what can Brett teach me if I'm a new agent, or I'm struggling, I need to get a deal right now and I don't have any leads? Maybe I have cold directory, maybe I have Mojo, maybe I have like Chime, whatever the geo list that you were talking about. But what texts are you sending people to get a response to? And then we'll break down your pipeline a little bit, because it's very simple. And I love how you simplified it in terms of getting them on the phone with you. And I like the lag piece of that. And I want to highlight that, guys, because the data is cold and they're reaching out to it, it's getting a response back. And then all of a sudden, if you were hitting them like you were, like speed to lead, the way you think your mind would work, what they taught us in this, in the space, or the others working, you think that you would have a higher conversion. But you say, I would let that list cool off for at least 48 hours. And you would pick this up because you went out of town and you came back and it just started working this older list. But then you had a lot of success, like where you didn't seem like that needy guy that was trying to get a hot girl's number and just met her and then just trying to go on a date or invite her over right then and there, right? You're like, oh, literally, let it cool down. Like
literally the difference. Yeah, it was that, because jumping right on it, like I said, they would just like, they're like, what do you want? There's always their thing. Why are you calling me? What do you want? Where if I call them like 3 days, if I'm calling them 3 days later and catch them off guard, and I use the same intro every single time. I literally hit my dialer on it, and every single time someone answers, I say the same thing on repeat. I go, hey, Adam, it's Zach. You were speaking with my assistant over text the other day about your property off of 123 Main Street. I just wanted to get a quick breakdown on that. She said you were maybe thinking of looking at an offer, or you had plans of selling. Can you explain that to me? So I'm making it sound like they already had plans and all this before I even talked to them. So they're explaining to me instead of the other way around.
Yeah, I love it. Just tie it back to that analogy. Is if you get, we'll just say that girl's number, right, that you're out with, and you just call her later that night, you're like, hey, let's go out before even say, it's gonna be like, that's weird, or what's your mode? Like, no. First, if it's been a few days, man, that guy Zach that I met hasn't called me or whatever, I'm feeling some type of way. Then you call a few days later, it's like, okay, gosh, then you catch them off guard, and it's like, okay, they're gonna be a little more vulnerable or open to you, and you don't have that commission breath or that neediness, or just like right there. And so I like that cool off period, because it's not like it's an opt-in lead or they're raising their hand in that effect. They're just responding to a cold blast text. And I did want to highlight the spacing of that to cool down, to buffer out the neediness or just that top of mind of, this is weird how fast this is escalated to this call, right? And so what is the text? I don't know if you want to screen share.
I'll show you right now. So this is the text I give all of our modern agents. I'll send you guys.
And this just goes out, and this goes out to cold data.
Yep. So right here, this is all my geo data. So you can see we have about 177 records right now. All my geo data.
Hold on.
We have
I picked my cell phone up and I started playing
Oh.
and Top Agent Experts. I was like trying to figure out where
That's funny.
I was coming from. Yeah, so
Just
sorry about
cold data. So like right here, like we reach out to title. I say, hey, I want homeowners in this zip code. Can you give me everybody? They go, do you want single family? Do you want condos? I say, give me everybody. I want to talk to every single person in that zip code before they do anything. So Mike Gerbich, I rewatched his 2% mastermind the other day, and it's something that he's coached with me on too, is the offer, be the buyer potentially. So I wanted my text to play both sides, because when I went really heavy on I'm the buyer or I already have a buyer, a lot of agents over here were already having that reach out. So do you really have a buyer right now ready to go? And they're wanting pre-approval sent over, and they wanted all this extra stuff. They were still qualifying me. So with the text that I switched up, we've been doing really well with, it says, hi, lead first name. My name is Zachary. I help run a local real estate team. I've lived locally my whole life and saw your home at blank. I was curious if you'd consider looking at an offer. So we have the offer, or had planned on moving this summer. Look forward to your response. So it leaves it open-ended. So it's very easy to say yes or sure. And that's what I want. I just want it easy for them to say maybe. I just want it easy for them to give a positive response. So this text goes out. I'll literally send it.
how many of these texts go out a week, you think, or a day or a month?
So when the ISA is rolling full time, which she's starting today, she'll be doing 2,500 a day, 5 days a week. And then I'll probably do my own 1,000 to 2,000 still, just to really hit hard right now for summer, because we're just getting a lot of activity over here. So even just right now, if I just go into my account here, so this was the ISA that I just swapped. She's at 18,000 right now for this month, and I'm at 9,200 right there. So you guys, this only works on a mass scale. You can't send 10 a day, get these and get the responses. It needs to be amplified. You need that high quantity of text messages going out. They get a positive response. They come on my list right here, and that's it. That piece of data has now made it through the process, and they're just waiting there for me to schedule the in-house appointment or see what's going on.
Yeah, it's just like prospecting and sifting and sorting. You just can't make a couple calls and you're going to set appointments or whatever. You need a couple of responses. You need a couple of qualified conversations to be able to scale something to like a 12-to-1 or 7-to-1 or 15-to-1 scenario. And so what is the response rate? Or is it 1%, 2%, 10%? What is the response percentages back to that text?
Yeah, so for just cold data, you can pull really high-end cold data if you want to go through a company like Property Radar. For our real mass texting like this, we tend to go just direct through title. So I'd say we're hitting close to 1%. It's on the lower side, but like I said, it's such a good, easy response for me to just call and talk with them with. Now that we have, like you said, the fundamentals built, if this is really working, great, let's go get the better data and just up our results.
Yeah, the better data. And then part of marketing is being able to split test. So I haven't been involved with split testing or giving you some other ideas, but you working with me and we're entering into this relationship of, obviously you're going to do some things in Discord, and it's like part of the prospecting community that I'm building. But I think you need to be split testing that.
It's right. I call it farming because it was higher quality data. So we wanted to use it for more than just texting. So I pulled my own little farm list, 1,600 people local to where I live, way higher response. I'm like times 10 response rate. It was a whole different story. So now we're just, like I said, now we're just working out getting that data source into our mass model and seeing if we can still hit that higher number, or if it was just from being a smaller list. Because that does happen. If you don't send as many texts, you naturally get a better deliver rate.
Yeah. So you played around with that text, and That's the one that you found that you get the best response with off of what you were doing. Being able to package it, like Mike said, with the offer, much more of a beefier offer, because you could have some people that do want to sell within that time frame, but there's just not enough of dangling of a carrot for them to respond to just some random text. And so I love to hear about what Mike is teaching you with the offer, because working that with me, how do you position it? How do you make that offer? And when do you make that offer normally, depending on the lead source and the different value propositions and the whole package? But I definitely think you have a lot to work with here, and it's simplified, but we could beef that up a little bit to get the 3%, 4%, 6% maybe response off that cold data realistically over time. But you're also in a very competitive, tough market. You're there with, I think Blake Corey's somewhere in your region, that powerhouse. I think you guys got Daniel Beer, you guys got Kyle Whistle. You guys are like the scrappy underdogs a little bit. So you're having to outwit the Wizards to stay highly competitive. And so I love it. And you guys embrace that challenge. Now, that's pretty simple text, man. Like, now let's talk about the deliverability rate. Do you worry about the deliverability rate, the spam filters, the government regulations with the texting piece? Help me understand like how you look at that, or how you track that, or how do you overcome and make sure that the deliverability is staying high?
So what's cool is the ISA, their real job, the person who's sitting there texting and filtering, that's all she's doing is texting and filtering. So as all these responses come in, she's filtering them. So if we get like a bad, wrong phone number, not interested, don't text me again, stop, anything along those lines, she's here just filtering and moving people aside. So positive responses go here. All the people that don't want to be texted or called again get moved over here, taken out of the list. And then we get our list of people who just haven't responded yet, and they'll just get put back in the rotation. So and then the list just gets smaller and smaller until we dump in new data.
You're looking for that engaged list, and your engaged list, we would just say with the very, top of the list of the responders, from how the cream rises to the top, what the list that you call on that is like the people that have responded to a text, and then you're calling them and attempting to position the worry-free listing program or any of the flexible commission or any of the love or leave it guarantee or any of that stuff. How many in that file or that folder that you're calling on?
So we average hovering around the 100 mark is where I like to keep it. And then every time that I dial, because I'll call through the list twice a day, they get double tapped. I'll call them one earlier in the day and I'll call them once later in the day. And then every single day we'll pull out at least probably 2 to 5 people on average. Some of them say no, or they're way off on price. And some of them we get the in-house appointment. And then the next day when I come in, the ISA has already dropped in their new people. So we have a nice flow right now of hovering around the 100. And now that the system's in place, we can start bumping it. Great. How do I get 200 people in there?
And these are all sellers.
They're all sellers.
So I love it. So guys, this is not paying $200, $300, $400, $500 a lead. This is, how much is that cold data costing you?
We're partnered with a title company, so I literally get it for free.
So essentially taking just data, zip codes, homeowners, public information, or you could pay cheaply to access it. And then the deliverability rate is, you're switching numbers out, I'm assuming, to follow up with the last question before I move on. And so for the spamming reasons and deliverability, you are masking numbers and interchanging numbers. So you're shaking the tagging of a telemarketer or spammer or something, or being blocked, right?
With texting, your phone number will get spammed so quick. So we swap them out every single week. So on Sunday night before we start the week, me and all the ISAs, our phone numbers go in and get swapped.
Okay, so that's part of who handles the overall lead management process, which would be your lead manager. Most people try to get ISAs to handle all this stuff. Like, you being like, we'll just say the team leader, if you don't have that lead ISA yet, you need to be managing the data. Maybe you're not making calls with them or whatever, but you need to be involved in the operational piece. And even, I'm assuming what you're doing it through Google Voice, or where are you getting the numbers from? Like,
So luckily we're in Chime. I can swap as many numbers as I want for free.
okay,
So like here in
okay.
Chime, I can just come in here and just swap. Oh, we just changed everything around. Looks like they just changed up here, but you can just come down here and you can just swap out your number. They have a section here normally called Manage Dialer.
Okay, so that was the part of my question that I asked you a minute ago. So I wanted to dig a little deep there. I want to be clear on that with people on this call. And so essentially you're taking free data, making the VAs just do nothing but text. That is the prospecting, because the contact rate has been falling dramatically. And then also the new, we'll just say, whatever government laws and with iOS and everything where they can opt out of stuff and not be tracked or whatever, how you can, it's just easier to really get filtered out of being able to just cold call a consumer, or we'll just say labeled. And so it's like texting is the new way of prospecting or following up with your database. And so all you're looking for, a lot of my successful teams, I'm talking about everybody doing at least over 300, 400, 500. Even on the lead gen, it's the automation piece with the texting is the initial prospecting and getting that cream to rise to the top, the hand raisers. Yep. And then you have a professional that is going in and attempting to set the appointment. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of success is the people that are running these elite, we'll just say callers, that people that are on the phone. The person that is on the phone, though, is a really high qualified standout. We'll just say ISA like you, but you're like a lead ISA manager, trainer, coach, all in one as you're developing this out. And so I love that you just essentially show people how to create a database for damn near nothing. You gave them the text, so they have 100 people a day. That is changing. A few people go in a day, a few people fall out for whatever reason, a few appointments get scheduled every single day, 69 close appointments. I know there was a mix of buyers in there because you worked in a new ISA, but essentially you're creating your own market. And that's what Gerbic was talking about doing in terms of the mastermind that he was on a few weeks ago that Zach was referencing. What's the offer? And then you have to be able to get in and compete on other data sources, whether it's wholesaling or there's a lot of homes that are selling before it even hits MLS, or maybe even Oxygen. We buy houses or the express offer stuff. A lot of those end up going traditional listing. But if you don't get in there and compete, we will just say in that arena or with cold data, you guys are making your own market. You're creating your own inventory. You're creating your own market. They're not in anybody else's database for the most part, unless they went on a website or whatever. And so it's awesome to see, and you're saving money doing it. What are you paying your VAs? Where are the VAs out of? Are they American, across seas? Because you guys also run a bigger call center with some other stuff as well outside of this. And so you guys actually have a lot more ISAs and specifically tied to this team that you're managing. But how many VAs do you have? You said you're onboarding 2 right now. So how many of these texters do you have specific to the Orange County group? 3 or 2?
So we'll be at 2 total for San Diego, Orange County combined. They're just working the same data.
And what do you pay them per hour?
So I pay my ISAs a whopping $4.50.
$4.50 to get out. What'd you say? 1,500 texts a day. Yep. Yeah, you're handling. You're handling where the machine gun is pointed. They're pulling the trigger and the levers and pushing the buttons and moving the data around, whether no thank you or bouncing in delivery rates or bad numbers or whatever. And then also they're getting people in your engaged bucket. And so essentially that is nothing to have your top 100 every single day where you're coming in, building relationships, getting 4.3 something million dollar listings and setting a couple of listings a day out of it or whatever. Yeah. And the tip that I gave you as I was looking at your stuff, because everything's changing, and it's like you can get through 100 people easily, right, on a triple line dialer.
Yeah.
And you're like, but then the contact rate or whatever it is you were telling me. And so if you guys are on here, if you guys are using whatever a triple line dialer to sift and sort through a lot of data and moving a lot of dirt, whatever, that's great. But things had changed in terms of how the government looks at a T5 line or the technology in the background that's connected to that server, because you're not supposed to use, we'll just say, a triple line dialer to call cell phones at all. And so that's one law that a lot of people don't know, but it's easy, whatever, to get around. Or how would they know if you're being respectful? But they cut off, we'll just say, however you're able to get them on the phone or whatever, or if you have multiple people answer at the same time, then you got this recording that says, hey, we got a bad connection, I'll call you back, whatever that pre-recorded message is. But you don't want to do that to your hot list. You've just worked you worked that data all the way up to where now this data, these leads are worth $400 or $500 or $200 or $100. Like, what would you pay? Well, I'm just asking the audience here to have a top 100 list of people that's raised their hand or they've been augmented or curated to this point where you could get on the phone and essentially set an appointment right now business, right? Because that's what you're doing. Like, what would you pay for that? And so you wouldn't want to triple line dial it. And that's what I gave Zach. I was like, Zach, if you want to, and maybe you can share your experience where like, yeah, this kind of happened. So that makes sense. With your guys's, we'll just say hot data or semi-hot data, you want to use a single line dialer because your contact rate will, I told Zach it will double. What he showed me his numbers where I was like, I can help you double that. And it's worth just spending a few extra 15, 20 minutes. Maybe 30 minutes. I don't know, depending on your talk time on your contacts, but the single line dialer is what you guys should be using for your hot stuff, because your contact rate, for whatever reason, I don't know what goes on in the background, will double. And it's like, that makes sense. I had to use a triple line dialer here recently. And what did you say?
So I've noticed
single line dialer.
Our buyer leads are a good one. I run the single line on them a lot. It's a little bit of a smaller list, and I do get a way higher answer rate. I never combined those in my head. I figured it was just because of the buyer leads, but it makes total sense because you think about, there's AI everywhere. So we're talking Verizon, AT&T, you're talking major cell phone carriers. They got AI and all these other systems built all in the business. So they're flagging phone numbers left and right.
Yeah, or you don't even know, what could be the reason of why, like, you just call that major list on a triple line dialer, only talk to 2 people out of hundreds and hundreds of people. And I was working with another person. This was last year, almost a year and a half ago. And they told me that when I was like, you need to use a triple line dialer. And they're like, no. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, that sounds crazy. I was like, show me the data. And they're like, we tracked all this. It don't make sense. And this is why we use a single line dialer. And they were moving a lot of dirt and data. And I was like, that's just crazy to me. I was like, and I was like, something's going on in the background with this, and how the carriers know if you're using that triple line dialer on cell phone numbers, which is no, and then they just sending you to ring space or whatever. So it looks like you're calling that person, but that person might not ever see an actual ring or your number on their end. And obviously, yeah, we've been testing this out over the last year, and it's doubled the contact rate for whatever reason. So I love it. There's another little tip for you. Taking the cold data, he gave you the text response rate. It might not seem big, around 1%. Obviously, there's a lot for me to work with Zach. This is actually just giving you stuff that is the simplification of how they're crushing it right now. And I'm excited to be able to work with talent, smart, sharp ISAs, and you guys are going to keep building this up, and then how you're kicking data out. And the reason I wanted you on today is because you said in the beginning of the call, oversimplify stuff here. And so we got 10 more minutes here. And so I wanted him to show you guys this simplified process right now. And thanks for showing that. I know some people get weird about showing maybe their database or whatever. And hey, any of you guys out in Orange County, if you guys are calling his leads, you guys are in trouble.
Yeah,
you got any of your people out there taking screenshots of this, man. Don't do that. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Some people get weird about that, but so I appreciate that, because
of course,
we need to create our own inventory. And that has been what Mike has been talking about with a lot of different niches and channels, to think unconventionally about lead generation or augmenting of that data or curating it to create it ourselves, not off a Google ad, not off the bot lead sources or whatever. And so you guys are doing that. And so that was like the one piece I wanted to show of how simple and how cheap you guys are creating. And your guys' average sales price is $1 million or whatever. It's crazy. And you guys are doing exactly what our message has been going into this spring. And so working with you over the weekend, I say, hey, hop on here. But I'm going to let you maybe just wrap this out, man. Drop any other free value that you think that could help another ISA or another team leader or single agent on here with the conversion piece of this, and or basically set more appointments or sell more homes, man. I'll let you bring us home over these next 10 minutes.
I'm going to say there's two major things that I think a lot of people miss with their ISAs. And one is, if you're using a virtual ISA, how important is it? We talk about it with agents all the time. How important is it to be local? Homeowners always want to hear that you're local. They want to hear you lived in the neighborhood. Being that local expert is huge. So if you just throw an ISA like out in the Philippines or Manila, and you just have them start calling a zip code, not knowing anything about the area, you're going to get really low conversion to the actual appointment. So what I do with my ISAs, I chat GPT just a huge list of Orange County, San Diego, essentially what you should know if you're a local. And I had them study that list. So they can talk about things over here. They can talk about Disneyland. They know when someone says Laguna Beach, where it is on the map. Giving them that local knowledge will boost it dramatically. Because if you just throw them in there and they don't really know what they're doing or where they're talking about, you're not setting them up for success. And that kind of moves me into number two, which is the culture of your ISAs. A lot of people, I feel, bring ISAs on and they're off to the side. They're not part of the actual team. I talk with the ISAs every single day. I shoot them a motivation text every day. We train 5 days a week. They want to see their results. When I go to the ISAs and say, hey, you booked this appointment and it's a listing, here's the review from the homeowner, they're still real human beings. They like that stuff. So when you're working with your ISAs, make sure you're making them part of your actual team and you're including them in that growth culture and that abundance mindset culture that you're, running the rest of your agents with. Because it's just for you to decide, I want actual sales reps. Like I want team members. When I just hire a bunch of ISAs, they're high turnover. I have to retrain them all the time. You get low results. That's not what I want to spend my time doing. I want 2 or 3 people that are going to be with me for the next 2-3 years. They're going to stay with me. I don't want to have to retrain them. They can even start training the other ISA that comes in. But so I really think that culture and that local knowledge is where a lot of people kind of skip on the ISA and they treat them more of a service opposed to part of the team or part of the company. So those are my 2 big things. If you're either using ISAs already or you're going to hire ISAs, keep those top of mind, because when I included those and started running them like a real sales team opposed to just some service off on the side, our results jumped dramatically. They're showing up to work excited to work. They're not, oh my God, okay, here, I'm going to cold call. They're not working 3 other jobs. Like my ISAs are here. They know I'm going to take care of them. They know I'm going to coach them, and they go and work really hard to repay that. So highlight those 2 things. If there's 2 big takeaways from this on how to be successful with them, I would say those are 2 major ones that get skipped a lot.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you had brought that up. And so it goes back to any sales organization, and people look at the ISA piece all wrong. It is essentially the most important role in your company, we will just say, in terms of first impressions. And then also, if you're running everything through an ISA, it is we will just say, spearhead or bottleneck to your business in terms of the revenue. And your livelihood and the rest of your agents or the company in general's livelihood is, and overall health is tied to the skill set of that ISA. And a lot of people, we will just say, adjacent to what they're already doing with sales, or they're trying to bring more value to their agents or whatever in terms of a value proposition to attract or recruit. It's, you have to develop quality sales people. And I love that you and I were working together. It's somebody's got to take point and be responsible for the development of these ISAs or VAs or OSAs, however you want to look at them, because you have to run that team within the team, if you will. And then if you're going to build it out the way that all the top performers and the way, that we do this, it's like now you have to start to compartmentalize the roles, the responsibilities, and there has to be a quarterback inside of that department, right? Yeah. And you're taking ownership of that, when a lot of people look at it like, oh, it's the entry level into the industry, or how even agents or team leaders look at it. It's the stepchild type of like they're an orphan or whatever. Yeah. And just put them in the corner with the phone book or with the CRM, and you just expect them to go create greatness out of it. And it's, if that was the case, every single Tom, Dick, and Harry could just get on the phone and be a millionaire inside of real estate. And that's not how any of this stuff works. And so there has to be leadership with a watermark or a benchmark or a quality range that you're looking to see within whatever your brand promise or value proposition to the consumer is. But the articulation of that and that offer being delivered at the right time with the right data is very important. And you could even find great ISAs that sound good, not a lot of accent or whatever. However, the slang and then being able to hear what they're saying, but they're not really saying it because of tonality, speech, fast, slow. And so you got to be able to pick up on all that stuff, and through training, re-listening to calls, reviewing your calls, being able to mix it up with some psychology, mix it up with some motivation, like you were saying, all of that stuff you're doing every single day. And that's what it takes if you are going to build a rock star inside sales agent team. And I love the fact that you have simplified it in terms of listings. And so that's what hopefully you guys got out of this today, is how to take cold data, make and offer through texting for $4 an hour with a VA at scale, a couple thousand texts a day. You don't have your VAs responding to them, or you don't have any AI technology trying to, like a Riley or something like that, carrying the conversation on for a day or 4 or 5 responses until it's like it hit a dead end, and then you got to jump in and it could be too late. You just say, whenever you get that response, whether it's yes, no, maybe, or 6 months or whatever, it just sits. It sits for 48 hours, and then it goes into whatever an active engagement by a professional appointment setter, which is you, the leadership, and you have your best of the best engaging with the vocals, with the actual vocabulary and the audio with that person. And you're seeing a couple of appointments come out of that a day, and then taking ownership of the development, the training. And it's so important, and you're so right, because that's how I looked at the inside sales piece, how I built my call centers over the years. They are going to be better than the agents. They are going to be like SEAL Team 6. They are going to be the elite secret special weapon inside of our organization. And I don't give a shit what our agents do, and I don't give a shit what anyone else in the world is doing. What goes on in this bubble with these 3 people, with these 6 people, with these 7 people, whatever it could be, that's the only thing that matters, because it is the little engine that can. And if you nail it with 4, 5, 6, 3, 2 people on an actual professional sales rep, whether they're in the Philippines or American or whatever, you nail it right with them. You have a sales rep, and you actually have someone that is going to be with you a long time, obviously, if you're taking care of them, but they are going to continuously print money in your organization if you treat it like that. And so they need to be the most important roles in your organization, and it needs to be invested in like that and treated like that. And then I promise you, if you're working back with us, and obviously we know what we're doing, right? And you will succeed. But if you treat it like it's a afterthought, or we try it and it don't work out, and it's because you have never committed to it. But once you commit to it, and you bring in people like Zach to be point, if you can't do it, Brett and Francis, they're too busy. So it's like you have to bring in someone that you can see building through, not just having in a role. Because when they brought you in, they hired you for this is what you got to do. Like when I say I was making $300 a week and I flipped it all the way to this, that's outstanding. But Mike saw more in me than I saw myself at that time, but then I had to go and make it work. And so they found the right person with you, and you're going to keep building that out, and your roles and responsibilities will keep changing as you build your ecosystem, and you're snapping on a piece of the engine to make it run faster and quieter and all that stuff. But the leadership piece is huge, guys. And I want to wrap that up with this, and I'll let you just say bye, or how can people get a hold of you? How can they get in contact with you or whatever? And so even building the traditional teams, I don't care if you got unlimited checkbook. I don't care if got the coolest lead source on the planet. If the leadership isn't dialed in, more than likely you're going to have a self-organized group that will organically do whatever it's going to do, decline or even plateau or even grow a little bit. But the leadership piece is huge with the traditional team, but it's even bigger in inside sales, and it needs to be the most important part of your overall company, because it can make or break whether you're highly profitable or not by driving the revenue the right way with the right people.
Yep.
What else you got, man? How can people get a hold of you? I love the, that I was introduced to you, and I look forward to like being able to actually work with you and make this thing, soup it up to make it cooler. But because I haven't been involved in any of this stuff at all until you and I met here a couple of weeks ago. But I wanted to introduce you to the group, and then just show people the simplification of, don't overthink it, but just do it. Just do it.
Really, you have all these stages, and I just think people get analysis paralysis. All you're doing is sending a text. Why are you worrying about like the listing appointment right now? Great. Let's start with step one and focus at one thing on a time. I keep that with the ISAs too. And you got a good ISA and you have a good culture and you've coached them right. When it was literally last Friday, my ISA sent me a text. They don't work weekends. He says, hey, can I work on the weekend for free to boost my appointment count? He was literally willing to work 3 hours to boost his appointment count. When you have ISAs like that, people who are really in the culture and you've hooked them up, like they are there, like they will live, breathe, and die like for your company, just like you will. That's how we've signed over $8 million in geodata into listings this month. It's because of people like that.
Hold on, repeat that again. 8 million in signed listings in 1 month.
Out of free geodata.
How can people get a hold of you, man?
Shoot me. I'm on Instagram as Zach Zen Real Estate. I'm also in the workplace. I'm in the group here, the Top Expert Agent group. But Instagram is definitely the best place for me. So Zach Zen Real Estate. If you guys want anything, I will send it to you. I'll give you the scripts. We can throw your ISAs on some of the trainings. Let me know, and I'm happy to help anybody out.
Zach, I appreciate you hopping on here last minute, because I was actually working on some of this stuff because I was going to run this Monday Mastermind by myself today, and I was actually going to take it in a little bit different direction with the conversion piece, but we stuck with the conversion piece. But I think that this, through the social proof, was much more impactful. So I appreciate your time today. I appreciate Francis and Brent lending you to me for an hour, man. And I'll catch up with you later, brother.
Thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
Later, guys.
Bye.